evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Fight for Our Freedom Radio. And I'm your host, Badbaby. And tonight we have with us Robert Evans, and we are going to be talking about the incoming Planet X and how it's affecting our planet, how it is affecting the people with their anger issues, and just taking calls if you have any questions or any comments that you'd like to make. We are taking calls tonight, so you can call in and raise your hand, and I'll unmute you, and you can join in on the conversation. You got a friend. How are you doing there tonight, Robert?
Oh, I'm doing okay, Badbaby. You know, it's kind of interesting tonight. It's nice and sunny out here in Pacifica, California. You've got a chance of thunder showers back there. It's a good night. Anyway.
Yeah, we've been having some wild weather on this planet. That's for sure.
Well, and they can, all of your listeners can expect a heck of a lot more coming really soon.
Have you heard anything about the super volcano up there in Yellowstone? I just started looking at a couple things, and I heard there's some activity going on around there.
I am not listening to it exactly. I'm hearing rumors. You see, the problem we have right now, and it was finally verified by Stereo Ahead, one of two satellites we have near our sun. We have Stereo Ahead and Stereo Behind. They look at the sun from two different angles. Ever since April 10th of 2015, people all around the planet have been seeing something in our skies. We saw the first image over Newmeyer 3 station in Antarctica on April 10th. And here's this big moon-like object. It was caught by a U.S. government webcam, beautifully described. Then a friend of mine back in Illinois caught the same thing in her skies in color on April 29th, 2015. Now, this is not our moon. It's not one of our planets, because you can't see our planets. Any of our planets that are in our solar system, you cannot see them from the ground with your normal eyes. But this was caught clearly in the skies over Illinois, and it matched the exact striping pattern that was caught over Antarctica. And then ever since then, we've seen 8 or possibly 9 more other objects in our skies. I have the photographs for each and every one of them. They've been seen over Europe, over England, Ireland, Scotland, over China, over Japan, over South Africa, down in New Zealand. We've seen one after the other, after the other, after the other. And Stereo Ahead on 05/10/2017 caught 4 of these moons, planets, whatever you want to call them, right in its camera range. And a friend of mine, Jason, on Facebook, he took a look at it, and he broke up the picture, and he spotted each and every one of them. One was right next to our sun, and here was 3 others right there in the camera range. NASA pulled that picture very quickly after it was first put up on Facebook. I still have the original photograph. So
wow.
I sent you the picture, Badbaby, so I know you have it.
Yeah, I remember you sent it to me, and I was wondering, because Facebook has been they've been taking some of my pictures down. Have they been taking pictures down on you?
Yes, they have. They've been playing games. Okay, so here is our sun, which is the only thing that stereo ahead should be seen. Here's our sun right in the middle of the picture, and here's one object just to the left of it, and here's three more right down to the right of it. So that is from stereo ahead, a U.S. government satellite, clearly showing four things that should not be there. The U.S. government has been using a lot of advanced technology type stuff to hide these things in our skies. They're putting out white chemtrails, they're putting out black chemtrails, and they're using something else. A friend of mine described it as a laser type thing, which hides these things up in our skies. They can be seen right after sunrise and just right around sunset. And they've been seen clearly in our skies all over the United States, up in Canada, and all around the world. So there's no denying these things are here. Now, the planet Nibiru is very real. It was first caught by a very advanced satellite that we sent out in mid-1995. Its name is Solo. It was a Israeli, Vatican, U.S. joint project. It was sent from the Earth all the way out past Pluto to meet up with the planet Nibiru on its incoming passage. It videotaped it, photographed it, came all the way back to Earth, and downloaded everything to a Jesuit secret base up on a HARP facility up in Alaska. So they know it's real. Okay? President Eisenhower and the Bishop of Los Angeles, Francis McIntyre, they met with 3 alien races back in 1954. One of their people, one of their select Western people, showed up with the Hearst organization. Hearst was there. His name was Gerald Light. He described the entire thing, even though he was sworn to secrecy. After the meeting, he wrote a letter to his friend down in San Diego saying it's all true. This letter still survives. All of your listeners, they can go to my webpage, starshipsaroundthesun.com, and it's right there on the first page of my webpage, Gerald Light. He was there. He saw the flying saucers being tested. He also described another of the 3 alien races there was an interdimensional race called the Etherians. They glowed. A lot of people have been watching the recent shows like Ghost Adventures or The Dead Files. The Dead Files, you got this one lady named Amy, and there's this other guy. He's a ex-detective from New York City, I think it is. In one of her shows, she described very clearly she saw a wormhole on the ground going into the forest. And she said very clearly she saw interdimensional beings and creatures coming out of this wormhole. You see that real big thing over there in Switzerland, the CERN. They've been playing around with opening interdimensional wormholes. And more and more people...
They brought some creature through Didn't a bunch of people get killed over there?
I've heard different rumors about that, so I cannot say. I'm just saying this one.
Through, got a hold of 3 of the scientists, killed them, and they were able to reverse whatever they did, and it sucked back out. But yeah, they're playing with fire over there.
They're playing with a lot of stuff. Okay, so the U.S. government, the Israeli government, and the Vatican paid for this space probe. It went out, it met up with Nibiru as it was coming in. You see, the planet Nibiru, NASA first saw it back in 1983. It's between 4 to 8 times the size of the planet Earth. NASA imaged it somehow in 2008. It has about 13 satellites, call them whatever we want to call them, dwarf planets, whatever. It has 13 things orbiting around it. Now, Nibiru orbits through our system between Jupiter and Mars. So we are seeing the outermost 8 or 9 of these objects in our skies right now, and they are affecting the Earth's crust. Stereo ahead on 05/10/2017, put it right on the map, right there. You could not describe what anyone was saying was as being BS or photoshopped or anything. Stereo ahead clearly saw 4 of these objects in its flight path. No ifs, ands, or buts. These things are affecting the Earth's crust. You see, kind of interesting. Hollywood has been making all these nice movies over the years, and they've been slowly warning the public, but hardly anyone is really listening to them. You had ID4, the first Independence Day. It clearly said that the president was completely out of the loop knowing about aliens in Area 51. The next movie was Deep Impact. The first movie showing a black U.S. president. Morgan Freeman played a beautiful job in that film. He accidentally leaked to the reporter that the deep underground military bases were built all around the planet to each country's abilities. And they would only take 2,000 people. They could hold them for up to 6 months, basically until the dust settles. Okay? The next film was called Battle L.A., showing all these huge asteroids coming down with aliens on them. That goes back to Comet Elenin, 2010. The next film was 2012. Your listeners should really check out that film. It gave away too much information about what's coming and what has happened before. Near the end of the film, they have a Chinese monk up in his monastery, and he feels the wind on his right ear. He turns his head and hears the oceans coming over the mountains. That goes back to 2900 BC with the Chinese Emperor Yahoo, Yahou. He saw something coming out of the constellation of Yin, and it said it caused the oceans to top the high mountains of China. The second time it came through was Noah's flood, 12,900 years ago. Now, Noah is only mentioned in the Holy Bible. In the ancient Sumerian text, which go back 4,000 years before the Bible's time, it was known as Ziasudra's flood. it caused a pole shift over the planet. The crust shifted over the mantle because something very large came near the Earth. The third time was sometime in 1615 to 1613 BC. The ancient Egyptians called it the Destroyer. A huge reddish mass was seen in their skies. This was at the time of the slaves and evildoers leaving Egypt. Interesting. You hardly ever hear about this because Egypt is Muslim. They don't acknowledge the Israelis or that there was a exodus of them. But the Hyksos, Hyksos, were in charge of the Nile Delta from the 12th Egyptian dynasty to the end of the 17th Egyptian dynasty. The Hyksos were a Canaanite people. No ifs, ands, or buts. The slaves were the Israelis leaving Egypt during the time of the destroyer's passage. The destroyer was in the skies over Egypt and the entire planet for 9 days. It rained down fire, which destroyed all the fields, orchards, and vines. And the stars all shifted to new positions in the skies. When the Egyptians tried to replant, the seeds died in the ground because the growing seasons had changed. That's a pole shift. Or, as in the movie 2012, earth crust displacement. Okay? Ippawar, and a highly trained Egyptian scribe, fully detailed the entire account of the Exodus. So you have the Holy Bible on the one hand, you have the Egyptian Ippawar on the other hand. Both accounts match exactly. The Holy Bible and Ippawar, they say the exact same things. Ippawar describes volcanic ash falling over Egypt during the time of the Exodus. The only volcano that was erupting then was the ancient Greek island of Thera. It erupted for 8 to 9 days, then it exploded, almost gutting the entire island. It is now called Santorini. The huge tsunami from the explosion washed over Crete and went straight over towards Egypt. Here's another interesting fact all of your listeners can check out. Go on Google or whatever search engine you use and check out the Tempest Stela, S-T-E-L-E, of Ahmose, A-H-M-O-S-E. It describes a tremendous flood coming in over Egypt. Everyone had to get around by boats.
Hey, you have a question in the chat, Robert. Someone wants to know if the Anunnaki are all good and if Enki is the good one or Enlil is the bad one.
Okay.
Or are they both bad guys?
From my opinion only, I've read the Lost Book of Enki many times. The Anunnaki, if you believe Zacharias Sitchin, they came here some 450,000 years ago looking for gold to help their planet Nibiru. Because they take the gold and they grind it up to a very fine dust. There's a certain name for it. I keep forgetting the name. And they put that in their atmosphere. because Nibiru orbits around the brown dwarf star Nemesis. Nemesis orbits around our entire solar system. Nemesis has 7 planets. Nibiru is planet number 6. We've never been told this, but NASA knows it. Okay? And NASA has been leaking recently that there's another star out here and it has 7 planets. Wow. I have the astronomy program called Astro Viewer. It's a free program. You can go in there and you can see that the 7th planet is what we call the dwarf planet Sedna, S-E-D-N-A. And here's our tiny little solar system off to one side in Sedna's huge orbit. Now, if we follow Zechariah Sitchin's book, Enki was the one who came down to Earth and taught all the humans all the stuff, how to make swords, how to grow food, how to do this, how to do that. Enlil actually he didn't even want the humans to be here. Enki and his half-sister, which I can never pronounce her name correctly, they were the ones who created a worker race. It was a first worker race. But this race de-evolved for some reason. They didn't do it right. Kind of makes you wonder, why do we have Sasquatch and the Abominable Snowman and all these other weird races around the planet? People believe or don't believe in. Then they created a very fine worker race. They created Adam. In the book, Adam was taken from the earth to Nibiru to be presented before the king of Nibiru, Anu. He was told not to eat or drink anything because their food would give him extremely long life. They didn't want him to have that. If you read the book very carefully and slowly, there was a racism type thing from the Anunnaki to this worker race, the humans. So Enki was the good guy, Enlil was the bad guy, because after a very rare alignment of the 7 from the Earth all the way out to Pluto, it altered the slight path of Nibiru through our solar system. And they knew that because it had been altered, it would be coming in closer towards Mars, which had their flight base for smelting the gold that was being sent to Nibiru, and it would be getting in closer towards the Earth. And they knew that the Earth was going to get the bleep kicked out of it because of it. So it's very clear in the Lost Book of Enki that they saw the planet Nibiru coming up from the south. And as it got closer and closer and closer, its intense gravitational pull ripped all the ice off of what we now call Antarctica. And all this ice slammed into the ocean all the way around the continent, and it created a gigantic wave all the way up to the North Pole, back down to the South Pole, back and back and back until all the oceans finally settled back down. They describe it very clearly in there. They also describe these huge lightning bolts coming from Nibiru to the Earth. We would describe that as being an EMP pulse right now. So if you had any electronics that had survived whatever happens, it would fry them. a massive EMP pulse. Now, Enlil thought and hoped that all the humans and the IEGs were the Anunnaki who lived on Mars at the smelting station. See, the IEGs came down to Earth during a visit of Anu, and they grabbed 200 human females to be their wives. Holy Bible mentions something like that. The Lost Book of Enoch mentions that they came down and grabbed 200 females and they had kids with them.
And didn't those, the children that they had with them had like 5 or 6 toes or 7 fingers?
They became the gods.
Now, I saw on, I can't remember what talk show it was, but there was a man that was on some show on TV, and they called him the Giant. He had a hard time finding clothes. He was over 7 feet tall, and he had an extra finger and an extra toe.
I've only heard of that. I've never seen a picture of him. Now, if any of your listeners
was actually on TV,
right?
And I remember his shoe was like a 16 or a 17 size shoe.
Okay, if any of your listeners do a search on Google, that's what I always use. That's the only term I'm using now. And they look for the ancient giants of North America. We found skeletons back in the 1800s up around the Great Lakes that were close to 15 feet tall. But because everyone believed in the Bible and these must be demons, they smashed them and destroyed every one of them. The Spanish, when they came up through Mexico, what became Mexico, they ran into several giants that the Native Americans used as warriors. And the Spanish, which were probably nothing taller than 5 foot back then, they only came up to the chest of these giants. So there are plenty of ancient stories talking about running into giants here in North America, that they just destroyed them. When they found their skeletons, they were devils. They destroyed them. Now, interesting thing after this slaves and evildoers. See, the slaves were the Israelis, the Hebrews. People were called them the Hebrews. Very close, okay? Now, the Egyptian pharaoh who started the 18th dynasty, his name was Akhmos. See, Akhmos and his brother Chamos came out of southern Egypt to kick the Hyksos out, and they did. The Egyptian army chased the Hyksos all the way out of Egypt and up the coast towards what's now Jerusalem. Akhmos survived. He became pharaoh for the 18th Egyptian dynasty. Akhmos, roughly in Hebrew, means brother of Moses. So you have the Bible brought right back into our story right now. Now, supposedly, the Egyptians saved all this ancient stuff. I remember going through Catholic school, and we were always told that after the Exodus, the Egyptian pharaoh demanded to know how the God of the slaves was more powerful than all of Egypt's magic. So he demanded to have all the ancient stuff being brought forward. That's how we know about the Sumerian texts. They all had to be dug up and brought forward. And they were all put in what used to be called the labyrinth. 2 stories underground, 1 story on the ground. Solon went there thousands of years ago. And he talked to the ancient Egyptian priests. That's how he found out about Atlantis. And they told him about all this other stuff that had happened. Now, according to Ippawar, after the stars all shifted in positions in the sky, the sun and the moon rose in new positions and set in new positions. That is clearly a pole shift. Earth crust displacement. So that was 1615 to 1613 BC. Now, 2 shows. One of them is now on the Travel Channel, Expeditions Unknown, with Josh Gates. He went over there to, can't think where my brain's going blah, Santorini. And he actually went with this team, this professor-type lady, and they went down to the very bottom of the caldera with a ROV, and they pulled up a rock, and they had it dated somehow, and that's where 1615 comes from. It pushed back the time that they had ever thought that the eruption had actually happened. Another part was this other group on Santorini found a olive tree at the very base of the volcanic ash. And they had that carbon dated. 1613 came up. So that's the time of the Exodus, when the volcano exploded, the exact volcano that Ippawar was mentioning in all of his workings. He said that the stars shifted positions, the moon and sun rose in new positions, and that the destroyer had struck the earth twice. He did not go into detail how the destroyer had struck the earth, but he said very clearly that the earth had been struck twice by the destroyer. Okay, that's Egypt. Let's go to China at the same time. Mozai, ancient writer from China. Mozai Book 5. Ancient stuff the Chinese recently have been putting up on the internet. You get the Chinese original, and here's the translation into English. He said, now his thing dates somewhere between 1600 and 1625, same time frame. He said 3 gods came down, and they aligned themselves with one warlord. And to punish the other warlords for not aligning with him, they had rocks falling from the sky for 10 days. Great heat, great cold. Almost the exact things happened in China as did in Egypt. All the way across the planet. That's why the movie 2012 paid a high price for what they put in that film. They used the term Earth crust displacement because something very large comes by the Earth, grabbing onto the crust and slowly spins it around. Now here's the Hopi Indians. The Hopi Indians. They have ancient prophecies. They said the third Hopi world ended with water. Now, they had another interesting thing they mentioned, that the Earth's rotation had been reversed. Interesting. The planet Earth had come to a complete stop and was reversed in its rotation. The Bible mentions one long day of fighting happening where they did not see the sun move in the sky. So you have the Bible mentioning all this stuff, same things. The Hopis said the Earth's rotation had been reversed. And they are hoping that at the end of the fourth Hopi world, which is right now, that the Earth's rotation will be reversed. Because they have the blue Kachina and the red Kachina. The blue Kachina is supposed to have the two star brothers. The two star brothers will come down in a plaza which is open for everyone, not just for Hopis, but for everyone. They will dance in the plaza and they'll take off their mask, showing everyone who and what they are. Interesting. That sounds like first contact to me. The red Kachina will follow right behind the blue Kachina. Now, this is very clear here. It says it will cleanse the world of the non-believers. Cleanse. Very clearly. Okay. Eisenhower, in 1955, went to Holloman Air Force Base and landed, which was, it wasn't called Air Force One yet. He had everything shut down when the plane landed. All the radars, telephones, everything. He met with what was then called the Nordics. Tall, white-looking humans, anywhere between 7 to 9 feet tall. He met with them for over an hour, almost an hour. Then when he got done, he left their flying saucer, went back into Air Force One. Flying saucer lifted off. There was a second one right above Air Force One. They both shot out of Holloman Air Force Base at high speed. Unfortunately, they decided to pick on this one poor guy that was off the base on a telephone pole, and he had to jump for his life. Eisenhower got back to Washington, D.C. He demanded no one was to ever mention flying saucers or aliens again. He was later heard to say he regretted that decision because a lot of things were already in preparation. Truman had started the MJ system, MJ-12, Majestic 12. They are the underground leaders that all the presidents have to reply to. Eisenhower told something to Kennedy. Kennedy was going to military bases around the country unannounced. He was talking to the regular people, not the enlisted people. At some point, he had 2 letters on his desk. He demanded that this information be on his desk when he got back from Dallas. The BBC years ago looked into it, and they, with Freedom of Information Act, they pulled up these 2 paperworks from Kennedy's desk with his signature and everything else being blotted out. He demanded all this stuff to be on his desk before he came back from Dallas. He never came back from Dallas. Ronald Reagan, years ago, went before the United Nations, I think 3 times. and your listeners can look this up on YouTube, Facebook, whatever. He started talking that what if the humans ever found out there was something else? We wouldn't be called Canadians, North Americans, Russians, Italians. We would be humans versus them. Now, Bill Clinton, when he was president, he was on a grandstand, behind the plastic walls, and he got some kind of message. Someone asked him, "Why aren't you going to tell us about the UFOs and stuff?" And he had a really quick comment saying he never knew anything, and he wished that if anyone else did know, that they would tell him. That's the underground government that we have for the entire world. They are working with the ETs, the extraterrestrial races. These races, they know that every time Nibiru has come through our solar system and gone past the Earth, it kicks the entire planet back to the Stone Age. They don't want that to happen this time. They want the advanced humans to go up to the next level. Now, about 12 years ago, they put these advanced, at least to us, space probes all around our sun. And SOHO, NASA, has been seeing these photographs for years. These space probes are about the size of the planet Earth. And they're orbiting around our sun. The SOHO cameras have saved many pictures showing them. See, we now know our solar system has an electrical quality to it. To put it simply, we have a voltage amperage. Our sun, using what's called a hyperbole, that's how it's called in this one document I have. It has a hyperbole going out to each one of the planets. And each of the planets have a thing going each to one of their moons. So when Comet Elenin was going through our solar system back in 2010, they expected it to explode because it would have a different voltage amperage compared to our solar system. Because the brown dwarf star Nemesis has a different amperage voltage, and Nibiru has a different amperage voltage. Our sun has been interacting with them and all these other satellites around the planet Nibiru. Numerous people since 2010 have looked up in the sky, and it looks like they're seeing sparks coming from our sun down, and they're catching this in their photographs. And it's really freaking weird. This one observatory, Kingman, Arizona, years ago, Kingman, Arizona Observatory. Here's this video, and it's looking through a observatory camera, looking straight at the sun. Here's this guy on the top of the observatory. He's saying, "Can you still see this?" He puts his hand over the camera, and another camera is looking up at the sun, and here's these spark-like things coming down to the earth. It's like, what is going on? And he takes his hand off the camera, and the camera was still seeing it. And several other people use their own video cameras seeing the same thing. That's our sun interacting with the brown dwarf star Nemesis and the planet Nibiru. It's a solar interaction. Numerous people have said the sun is very bright now, kind of like they have to use their sunglasses a lot more than they ever used to have to. And that's what's happening. Well, we have these 8 or 9 satellites being seen in our skies. Stereo ahead, boom, nailed it, showing 4 of them. No ifs, ands, or buts. They are there. I have all these, I must have over 200 photographs from around the planet, down in Mexico, from different resorts where the camera looks at the sun, other people around the planet sending in photographs of this thing. They're trying to hide these things in the sky because they don't want the people to freak out. And neither do I. I'm sorry. The people have to know.
Sorry, I agree. I don't want anyone to be in fear, but you know, I also feel that we have the right to know what's going on.
Well, we do, and the powers that be, the leaders, they're not going to tell the average person. Okay, it's very clear. The Georgia Guidestones. Have your friends look up the Georgia Guidestones back in Georgia. They were created back in 1979 by some person called R.C. Christian. I wonder if that's the Rosicrucians.
Yeah. And the thing is, they got all those FEMA coffins, and you know that they had them. They have them for a specific reason.
Yeah. Oh, yes. You see, the Georgia Guidestones in almost every known language on these three huge granite blocks. Very clear. It says never let the population go above 500 million again. That's about 95% depopulation. Okay, I know you have a lot of Christians listening to your radio show. Pope John Paul II. Very interesting. He's one of my favorite popes. Okay? Back in 1980, he went to a German town and he met with a great deal of paying German Catholics. You know, they all pay so much to the, to be there, shake his hand, blah, 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 blah. Unfortunately, there was at least 2 reporters amongst this huge group of German Catholics. And they kept asking the Pope, John Paul II, about the 3rd secret of Fatima. Interesting. The Pope finally gives up. And this is what he said. Given the seriousness of the contents, my predecessors in the Petrine office diplomatically preferred to postpone publication so as not to encourage the world power of communists to make certain moves. On the other hand, it should be sufficient for all Christians to know this. If there is a message in which it is written that the oceans will flood whole areas of the earth, and that from one moment to the next, millions of people will perish, truly the publication of such a message is no longer something to be so much desired. Many wish to know simply from curiosity and a taste for sensationalism, but they forget that knowledge also implies responsibility. They only seek the satisfaction of their own curiosity, and that is dangerous. If at the same time they are not disposed to do something, and if it commits, if possible, against evil. Now, the Pope gave this message back in 1980. This is found on the internet right now. All of your listeners can go look for Pope John Paul II and the 3rd secret of Fatima. This was never reported here in the United States. The Vatican tried to downplay his warning. He was almost killed, assassinated in 1981. After he recovered, he went straight to the jail cell of the person that almost killed him. And off the record, he talked to him for over 2 hours. He never mentioned this warning again while he lived. One of our last popes, Pope Benedict, interesting person, the first pope to retire in 600 years. See, the Vatican has known all about this stuff since 1954. Bishop McIntyre went straight to Rome after the meeting in 1954. He spoke directly with Pope Pius XII, and he told him everything. The Pope was angered and really worried because the bishop also told him there was 2 alien races living here on Earth that looked just like humans. You could walk down the street and walk right past one, you'd never know they were alien. He was afraid that all the Americans or the world Catholics would fall away from the church. He put an archbishop over the bishop and started a close relationship between the United States and the Vatican. And they started having secret meetings. 1955, Eisenhower met with these people. Pope Pius XII also met with them in the Vatican Gardens. And they were the Anunnaki. The Pope described them as a warrior race, and that they came from the planet Nibiru. This was all leaked in early 2000 when a high-ranking Jesuit priest was sent out from the Vatican to talk to an Italian reporter, Christopher Barbato. This Italian reporter was doing his own UFO-type magazine. And he talked about it for quite some time. He eventually told his friend, Lucas Scantamburlo, everything that he wanted him to know. Not everything, but just what he wanted him to know. Lucas Scantamburlo, through Project Camelot, did a 2-hour video called The Return of Planet X. And he details everything that Christopher Barbato told him, that this space probe, Silo, actually videotaped the planet, did whatever else, came back to Earth, and downloaded everything to a secret Jesuit base. So the Vatican has known all about this for a long time, as have each of the other world's governments. No ifs, ands, or buts. Norway started building the deep underground military bases sometime in the 80s. A high engineer turned politician, and he leaked that the Norway deep underground military bases were for the elite only. And he said that all the people on the planet would die. I have a copy of his original thing that Project Camelot put out. He said they were doing it all because Planet X was coming in. Russia started building immense bomb shelters in and around Moscow, over 5,000 bomb shelters to save people in and around Moscow. They only just recently finished all of them. The Russians have been building immense underground cities up in the Ural Mountains for years. We here here in the United States been doing almost the exact same thing. We've built deep underground military bases from the east to the west coast up into Canada. The FEMA
and I think
camp,
that's a lot of what all these people are hearing, these humming noises coming from the earth. I think it's that drill that they're using, you know, and all these loud booms and stuff. And I'll tell you another thing that I think that's pretty interesting, Robert, is in the last week, 3 houses have just exploded. 1 up here in Michigan and 2 down in Ohio. They just exploded, and then they burnt to the ground, and they said that it was an extreme gas leak. Well, I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, well, did the gas pipes break because the earth is shifting?
the Earth's crust is starting to act up. Some of my friends have said it has started to shift. I don't know. The intense gravitational pull from these 8 or 9 satellites, which are very large, okay, are affecting the Earth's crust. We're having a lot more volcanic rumblings and explosions going on than we've had for a long time. They're also affecting earthquakes because gravitational pull from these things that go near the Earth, they're actually working on their crust in a way that we humans haven't seen for 3,600 years. The United States government started a lot of stuff back in 2012. This one lady called Just Call Me Kit used to have a YouTube page called Just Call Me Kit. She was on the Orion talk radio show in 2012. She was mostly put down as a Tea Party Republican. You still there, Badbaby?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, because I just heard something on my phone. Wasn't sure if I was off or what. She was describing...
Well, I got people in the chat room that are saying that they can't hear. Other people are saying they're having trouble hearing. So, yeah, I think we're being perped.
Yes, we are. That's happened many times with other people on your show. It's happened to me many times on other shows. Back in 2012, this one lady, she was following U.S. government's programs on the internet for construction stuff, for all the stuff to be done. She found that they were building 3 additional underground food storage places up in Wyoming, South Dakota, North Dakota, and another state. Immense underground dry food storage, frozen food storage, and wet storage. And that all of the states here in the United States were grouped into 3 huge databases, A, B, and C. A had so many states, B had so many states, C only had so many, and that's it. Now, we're supposed to have 48 continental states. Not all of the 48 states were mentioned. And she went very clearly through all of them. And that all the radar systems and the communication systems were being relocated up in these upper great states. You see, Edgar Casey, the sleeping prophet, back before he died back in 1945, he was the first person I've ever heard mentioning the term pole shift. He predicted that there would be a massive pole shift coming up after 2000. And he had these maps made up. And the movie 2012 used these maps and all their stuff. The entire west coast of the United States is going to be underwater. Just like in the movie 2012, you see the entire coastline cracking up and going under the water. There would just be massive islands from Yosemite, Lake Tahoe, all the way up to what's Canada. The Great Lakes would rip a huge hole all the way down through the United States, almost 50 miles wide, to the Gulf of Mexico. Most of the East Coast up to the Adirondack Mountains would be underwater. John Moore, he's been talking about this for years now. He saw these same maps at this one meeting. He and someone else was working doing signals. He had to board.
Are you still with us? You're breaking up.
No.
Oh, we're losing you.
Right, not anywhere. We're being played with. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, yeah. All of a sudden you sounded like you were talking through your fan.
Oh, see, I'm not the only one that's talking about this. There's John Moore, which he's done numerous videos on YouTube talking about this. And his map almost exactly matches the map Edgar Casey had done up. So they've already prepared for this. And all of my contacts are saying this is coming sometime around October of this year.
His map is slightly different, but it's close to Edgar Casey's. I interviewed John, and he sent me a copy of his DVD.
Right. It's very close to Edgar Casey's work. You see, Edgar Casey's maps started to be given out by the high-ranking military officials who were retiring something like 30 years ago. They were told to keep it quiet, but some of them leaked it. And they've been leaked off and on that this is what's coming. Now, John Moore has been talking to a lot of people that they're all relocating up in the Adirondack Mountains, up in Colorado, up in Wyoming, South Dakota, North Dakota. He's talked to other people like insurance brokers. Why are all these people suddenly relocating there for? They already know what's coming. No ifs, ands, or buts. The entire planet is going to be reset. The Earth is not going to be destroyed. It's not the end of the world. It will be a huge reset button. No ifs, ands, or buts. The entire planet is going to be reset. Now, according to Edgar Casey's maps, Lemuria jumps out of the ocean in the Pacific between the United States and Russia, a huge landmass. New Zealand, little tiny island way down there, there'll be a huge landmass. A lot of their other areas are going to be underwater because the tectonic plates, they don't play around. When they're being affected by gravitational pull, some are going to be lifting up out of the water, some are going to be pushing down under the water. My contacts told me to tell everyone a long time ago, get prepared for a 6-month backpacking trip. Pack essentials only. Because just like in the movie 2012, there'd be earthquakes left and right, up and down, all across the entire planet. Roads would probably not be, you'd be walking or riding horses. You still there, Badbaby?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. You know, any of you...
Typing to my guests that people are, they're disappointed. They can't hear. I just told them they're just going to have to listen to the recording.
I guess so. They don't. The powers that be do not want this information to be gotten out. They took out Steve Olson, I think his telephone, or one of your people on. They took out their telephone last time. One of the shows.
Yeah, it was Steve. Steve had his phone taken out. You know, I mean, the harassment has been really bad for all of the Planet X researchers. And
right.
I know that you're going to be speaking at the Thrive conference. And, you know, it seems like everybody that's planning on going to the Thrive conference has been sick. And,
well,
you know,
I plan to be there.
As you know, I'm really sick right now. So, good. I can't, one of the listeners that couldn't hear kept logging in and out. Well, he's back now, and they can hear. So we're really glad you can hear us now.
Right. Well, okay. Well, I'm on Facebook. Your listeners can catch up to me on there. Robert H. Evans Jr. on Facebook, and I'll accept all the friendships I can get. People want to listen about this. Hopefully, you'll give me the link to the show, and I'll post it right on my Facebook page. No problem. So all of your listeners, they'll be able to listen to it right then and there. But
and
even
it's really good to look Robert up on Facebook because he's always posting a lot of great pictures and pics that a lot of people send to him, and he gets some really, really good pics up there. I share your pictures all the time. And like I was saying when we first started, you know, I wanted to know if you were being harassed. When they take your pictures down, does Facebook ask you if it's spam and did you post this? Because that's what they're asking me.
No, they don't ask me one thing.
If people comment, this happened to me a few days ago. I had 3 people comment on a photo I put up. All their comments disappeared, and then Facebook said, we have froze this picture. The only one that can see this is you. Did you post this, or is this spam? So I clicked on yes, I posted it. And it just came back with the only one that will be able to see this picture will be you.
And a lot of my friends have complained also the same thing, that pictures were taken off my Facebook page, that they see me posting nothing. And they're asking, what is it that I'm posting? Now, thankfully, I still have my computers, so I immediately put the pictures back up on their page. It'll show them exactly what. I know my different shows have been pulled, and luckily other people have said, I've got it, and or I get it from you back again. So they're playing games. They don't want people to know about this.
Well, the interview I did last night, I did an interview on Deep State Blues with Judy Byington, which she speaks out against the MK Ultra mind control program that's ran by the CIA, and it's a satanic ritual group. And we were having a hard time opening up the beginning of the show, and we do it through a conference. And I told her, well, call me and I'll walk you through it. Well, she emailed me twice and said, is this the right phone number? I tried calling you 3 times and I keep getting your fax machine. And I emailed her back and I said, Judy, I don't have a fax machine.
I've had the same thing happen where, Bob, please give us your number. We're on the show, and because you're dropping off, okay, they had my number to start with, and then they tried calling my number, and they got a thing saying my phone had been disconnected. Okay?
Yep.
So I've gotten the same thing. The powers that be, they listen to my radio shows. They listen to my telephone. They go through my emails.
Yep.
They take things out of my emails.
We've been labeled. We've been put on a list, and we're labeled enemy of the state. And I have a friend.
I hope not, but probably.
Oh, yeah. I mean, no doubt. But I have a friend on Facebook that doesn't know anything about targeted individuals. So when we talk, I tell her a lot about targeting. And 2 days ago, we were on the phone, and I was telling her about targeting and some of the things that had happened to me. And 4 times they disconnected us. 4 times I got, if you'd like to make a call, please hang up. And I'd call her back, and she'd say, What happened? You just disappeared. You were in the middle of a sentence, and you were gone. I said, yeah, I heard this big click, too. See, what they're doing is letting us know that they're listening.
Exactly. Now, Ivy West, which is one of the first people that got me going with this whole thing, she's over in Hawaii, and she has her own radio show. I've been on the phone numerous times with her, talking from the United States to Hawaii, and the phone just goes dead. Okay? And the phone company said, well, you have to put all your money back on the phone again. Huh? Didn't I just buy a card and it was all wiped clean? Now, I was mentioning Pope Benedict there for briefly. Pope Benedict was the first pope to retire in 600 years. Now, right after he retired, he went on several German radio shows, and he was blasting the Jesuits and their alien agenda. Now we have Pope, Francis, I think his name is? And he's what? He's a Jesuit. Interesting, because when you listen to John Moore mentions that the Vatican has an underground bunker up in Wyoming. I think all of the major religions have underground bunkers. Because
they do.
When this thing happens, they're all going to be safe underground somewhere.
Well, they think they're going to be safe. I really don't think underground is going to be a good place to be, because when the earthquakes happen and the crust is breaking and slipping around, don't you think those bunkers are going to bust apart?
Well, you see, we have another problem here, okay? The picture on my Facebook page shows a huge glare on the horizon. Then you see our sun, and then you see one of Nibiru's satellites. This one Cal State professor years ago did a video called Nemesis, our sun's evil twin. And he goes into how he predicts, it's a theory, that every 26,000 years there's a mass extinction here on the planet. And that's because the brown dwarf star Nemesis comes in way too close to our solar system. See, it orbits around our solar system, and it causes a lot of things to happen. What's that one thing everyone's fighting about now? where the planet is warming up. Okay? Marshall Masters, years ago, 2010, he was watching the planet Pluto's atmosphere warming up. Then the next planet in started warming up. Then the next one. Then the next one. Saturn was warming up, and all of its moons were warming up. Jupiter started warming up. All of its moons were warming up on the bottom side. So something was coming close to our solar system, was causing every planet in our solar system to warm up, including the Earth. That's why the Earth has gotten warmer and warmer. This thing, if this is the wrong time for us, it does something to the Earth, and that's why all the powers that be and the elite are going to sit underground, assuming they even survive underground. We've been hiding M1 Abrams battle tanks up in Norway's caves for the last 5 to 7 years now. A friend of mine up in Norway sent me a picture of a cave where it showed one row after the other of Humvees with the 50 calibers up on top. Beautiful cave. Nice and white, tiled everything. And then another picture looking back down the rows, and it went back as far as the camera could see.
Here's another thing I find highly suspicious. Remember a few years back when that congressman was contacting Homeland Security from Arizona? He was contacting Homeland Security, and he wanted an explanation of why the military was running zombie drills out in the desert. And also, people were filming UN trucks that were on trains that had on the doors written "Zombie Squad." And I can't remember who it was. Somebody that was on a different talk show was talking about the radiation that's going to come off this planet when it spins around the sun. If you're outside, it's going to fry your brain. That you're going to just pee in your pants and not know what happened to you. You're going to become zombified. So
there have been several things that have been leaked out over the years. Okay.
Right. Okay, but let me finish for a minute. There's a movie that I came across, and I'll look it up for you guys and put it into the chat room for you. And it's called The Night of the Comet. You remember that movie, Robert?
Yes.
The Night of the Comet. And I watched it the other day. And I went, I haven't watched that movie in a long time. And it sure does. If you watch it, people turn to dust. They get turned to zombies when the comet comes through. It depicts the spinning of this planet. And that movie was made way back in the 50s. I think it was in the 50s.
Okay, hold on. The first movie that came out about all of this was way back in the 50s. It was called When Worlds Collide. Where here's this planet that's suddenly swinging into our solar system. It's coming in very close near the Earth, and it destroys almost everything on the planet. And the survivors, they flew from the Earth in rocket ships, and they landed on this new planet, which actually took the rotation part of the third rock around the sun. All right? When Worlds Collide. The author did a second book called After Worlds Collide. That was the first time I ever...
I just found the movie and put it up for everybody. It was made in 1984.
Not When Worlds Collide. That was back in the 50s.
No, Night of the Comet was made in 1984.
Oh, yeah. There have been several films like that where this comet goes by. It causes major destruction somehow all around the planet. Cars are down. People are just dead left and right, or they're gone. Kind of like the thing from the Bible. And I grew up in the 60s with all the disaster films. So I've seen each one of these films, including the one you're talking about.
Well, a few of them that you mentioned earlier, what was the one where it was the reporter?
Well, there was
they're playing that over and over right now on Star's channel.
Right. You had ID4, then you had Deep Impact with Morgan Freeman.
That's the one they're playing right now, over and over. Deep Impact. Right.
That's where the president, because there was a huge amount of money that they had spent, and they didn't want everyone to know about it. Huge amount of money. $2.3 trillion disappeared from the United States government a couple of years ago. $2.3 trillion disappeared, and no one has ever been able to find out what happened. That's where all the
Bob Fletcher and Sonny Bono were going to testify in front of Congress about what happened, and they killed Sonny Bono during Christmas break.
Okay, so
right now Bob Fletcher is so ill. He was invited to come to the Thrive conference. He can't make it because he's too ill. Steve's going to go to his house and video record him.
Well, you have FEMA camps from the East Coast to the West Coast, from the Mexican border up to the Canadian border, and they have them also up in Alaska. See, the interesting thing about the FEMA camps, they're not going to be like the German concentration camps where they want the prisoners to die. They want the camp populations to survive, the workforce to rebuild everything. Okay?
Yeah,
yes,
I feel that the people that survive, and Al Cuppin had said this before, people are going to walk into them camps willingly, because they're going to tell them, come here, you'll get a hot shower, a warm meal, a nice bed to sleep in. And those people that walk in there willingly, they're just going to become worker slaves.
That's right. They're not going to pay you union wages. You're not going to get the lowest wages. You're going to get food and shelter, and I can't tell you what else. Okay? The United States government, back in 2010, started every United States agency, from the U.S. Post Office all the way down, started buying up massive amounts of guns and ammunition. They were buying up more weapons than the United States military was getting. Everyone around this country was seeing the blue UN trucks and stuff going around from here to there. You see, what's going to happen? It happened 3 times before in human history. We're going to fly right through Nibiru's tail. And that tail created the huge rock storms that came down over Egypt, over China, over the entire planet. That's going to take out all of the satellites, including the station that's up there. The Hopis say that station will come down There's no ifs, ands, or buts around. You will not have any GPS. You will not have any telephones. All the satellites will be destroyed. That's why they've been pre-positioning military hardware. That's been on the internet for years now, for Walmart stores, with the military equipment outside, underneath, around them. They are pre-positioning military hardware. Because when this stuff happens, they will only have the old maps of the area showing how to get from here to there.
And that's going to be the last proof. And when they figure they can come back up, this is their plan. They think they're going to survive in these bunkers, and they're going to come back up, and whoever's left alive, they're going to put them in the camp, and they're going to take the FEMA coffins and get rid of the bodies.
Well, back in I'm quite sure, just as Pope John Paul II said, millions of people will die. We've got, 7.5 billion people around the world? Now, this is going to be affecting every country around the planet. Those coffins, between 3 to 5 person coffins, those are for crematory. They will cremate because they can't have all these bodies laying all around everything. They can't have them floating in the oceans. They'll have to be scooped up. Otherwise, the entire planet will be poisoned, and no one will survive.
Well,
then we have the
nuclear. Al Puppet said was one of the reasons why the guillotines are in the FEMA camp is because
that's kind of an interesting part.
Anybody over 50 is going to be history. And he said the reason they're going to behead people is because they want to organ harvest.
I've heard numerous rumors about that, just as you have. I'm quite sure that whatever planning, because the leaders know there'll be people all over the place, okay? They will have to do certain things to keep the survivors alive and to keep the planet from being poisoned. Because when all the Earth's crust shifts, just as in the movie 2012, all the oceans shift with the crust. When the crust finally stops, the oceans don't want to stop. Just like in the movie 2012, there'll be huge, humongous tsunamis going all around the planet until the oceans finally settle back down. No ifs, ands, or buts. You saw in the movie 2012 where their friend on India, that huge wave was coming up 1535 meters high. That's almost 5 miles high.
Do you think, Robert, that the radiation levels, I know that they're getting higher. I've seen a lot of people with detectors and putting readings up on YouTube. Do you think it's affecting the way people are acting right now?
I think, and we already know about this, it's called the Schumann resonance. It's a very low resonance, a hum or a rumble that the planet seems to give off. The Schumann resonance normally is down at 0.75. The Schumann resonance now is in the 0.15s. The Schumann resonance affects the brains of all mammals. from what little I've been able to read about it, is that the Schumann resonance affects anger in the brains.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been growing and growing and growing in height, in resonance power. Is that why everyone's starting to act up, kill other people, angry, this or that? I don't know. The thing with CERN, with the interdimensional type things, that's been laid down right now, called the Mandela effect, where people, it's almost like where they thought they remembered that from before. Something happens and it's something to do with the interdimensional stuff they're playing around with. And it's being put out as the Mandela effect. So you can look that up on Google or whatever search engine you have. I've looked it up. One of my friends who's a psychologist, she told me that more and more of her patients are saying a certain thing over and over and over. And she told me to look up that Mandela effect. It's almost like, something to do with interdimensional type stuff. So,
well, are you familiar with the two different farmers that found whales in their field? And I know Snoops is they're a front. I know they are. I've done some information on them, and I find it interesting that these farmers have actual pictures of these whales. How can you fake that, laying in the middle of their field, and Snoops is out there saying it's fake?
I have heard rumors about that, yes. I have never seen a direct picture of it.
Oh, I've seen the pictures. I just posted Snoop's article about saying it's fake, and the pictures are there. Those are not fake pictures. When they first came out, there was actual regular news reporters from the areas that came out there and said, how in the world could a whale get in this far inland in a farmer's field? And the only thing I can think about that is maybe, I don't know, maybe alien ships moved it? I have no idea.
Right. Well, it's just like all those mass die-offs that has been happening for the last, almost 10 years now, where massive amounts of birds suddenly go off, or fish. Over in Europe, they had massive die-off of crabs and starfish. Over here off the Pacific coast near me, we had massive amounts of these huge squid, which were washing ashore. They've had cattle in different parts of the world dying, just massive amounts of stuff. That's all being caused because of this thing that's coming in. And it's been quieting down lately. My military friends have told me they're already set up for it. The deep underground military base up in Denver, under the Denver airport, is already active. Some mountain called Iron Mountain or something up there, they built 3 17-story buildings underneath the mountain, and they're fully activated. All of the planet is waiting for what's coming. And all of my contacts, even John Moore, he's saying somewhere around October of this year. Now, what is going to happen, I can't tell you, because I don't know. I can only tell you what I found in ancient texts accounts that say this thing has happened 3 times before in human history. So things are going to be starting up real soon. Kind of makes you wonder about the politics stuff. One possible president probably had everything set up for going down in these underground bunkers. Now you have this other new president who's going to have his friends down in these bunkers. Kind of makes you wonder about all the stuff on the news lately. See, John Podesta, Hillary Rodham Clinton's manager for WikiLeaks, he sent an email out to her and several United States senators, and he went into very great detail that Nibiru was going to do to the planet. He just walked it right down the line, one after the other. This was John Podesta. He said very clearly what was going to happen to the planet. Not me standing on the corner, the world's coming to an end. Not the Pope. John Podesta with Hillary Rodham Clinton. I still have the email. He goes into great detail of the power systems, the refueling systems, everything. News media never even touched this. But they touched all the other WikiLeaks stuff. If I were to go by what John Podesta said in his email, he says the Earth is going to shift 90 degrees. In the movie 2012, it was only 23 degrees, where Wisconsin would be the new the South Pole, because not only is the crust going to shift, but the magnetic North and South Pole will also shift. And John Podesta talked about it very clearly. So I don't know what to say. All I've been telling my friends is to get prepared as soon as possible.
Right.
Backpacks, sleeping bags, whatever type of stuff you think of to protect yourself with. So I'm not going to mention anything along that line in this radio show.
You know, and John Moore was saying the other day on his show, he was telling people to carry water, and, you know,
water filters.
Carry a couple gallons of water, that's a lot of weight. I mean, I recommend that people buy a life straw or a bottle that you can use that strains the water, you know, I mean.
Exactly. The emergency water filtration stuff that's on the market will do very well. Okay? They're not cheap. The life straws, I have several of those. You're going to have some type of solar charging type thing, like those fold-out solar panels. You know, they're really lightweight.
The first thing to do before you put it in your, run it through your life straw, is to carry a package of coffee filters. And then fill a jug up of the water, make sure it's out of a running stream, something that's moving, not stagnant, and then pour it through your coffee filter first, and then filter it through your life straw.
Right. So you're going to have water. You're going to have food. You're going to have a way to catch food, one way or the other. You're going to have something to sleep in, to sleep at night. You're going to have something to protect yourself, because while mankind will be set through the reset button, that doesn't mean the grizzly bears, the mountain lions, and everything else is going to leave you alone. You're going to have something to protect yourself. And when you've got 100, 300 million people, something like that, here in the United States alone, you're going to have a lot of people going against the other person for what they have. No ifs, ands, or buts. One of the books, I can't remember the guy's name, it's called Return to Planet X. And he had several Native American prophets which had actually had dreams about this. And they dreamed that everything west of the Rockies would be gone. That's exactly what Edgar Casey puts down. And that they would be fighting with the survivors for whatever they had. So it's going to be extremely hard times. Edgar Casey said that. All these other people are saying it. These deep underground military bunkers for the food supply for the United States that had to be done in 1 year, back in 2012. Now, Orion Talk Radio is off the air. I still have the original show from 2012. The lady called Just Call Me Kit, which had gone into great detail on this 1 hour show, she disappeared. Her YouTube account was taken down about a year ago. According to her in this radio show, everything was being relocated up into Wyoming, South Dakota, North Dakota. John Moore says the same thing. He said the CIA was relocating up there, and so they're already prepared for this. Now, funny part, during the radio show early on, Just Call Me Kit said all of the museums were putting things underground in huge bunkers, just as was put in the movie 2012. She doesn't mention which museums, she doesn't mention to which bunker, what state, but that all the museums in the United States were putting all their valuables into the underground bunkers.
Well, we have a guest that has a question. How long has this doom and gloom been being preached? It's been talked about for years, guest state, and I don't know why you would want it to happen so soon. The longer we have that it doesn't happen, yeehaw.
Well, John Moore, John Moore in his videos thinks or has said that it would probably be months or maybe a couple of years after all the dust settles down. You see, China started building huge cities down in Africa years ago. They're fully prepared. They got water systems, power systems, sewer systems, and these cities have no one living in them. They're heavily guarded. They did the same thing up in the Mongolia region, building these huge cities up there. So they know something's coming. They put the money out.
When Al Gore came out with the climate change, that was all planned.
The climate change.
So that when we had the severe change in our planet right now, like it's happening, it was a cover story so that everybody would think it had to do with our...
Exactly. We started using that climate change, the warming Earth thing, back about 2010. That's when Marshall Masters said that Pluto was warming up, and each one of the planets all the way inward were warming up, and Saturn and Jupiter were warming on the bottom part the most. So
and that was
something
right around when they first discovered it, and it was put in Astronomy magazine. There was a big article about it, and then
exactly
story, and then all of a sudden they came out with all this climate change stuff because they sat down and said, well, this is what's going to happen, and we're going to have to be able to explain why all this is happening to the planet, so we'll just tell them it's climate change.
Exactly, and that's because of the brown dwarf star Nemesis, which is orbiting around our solar system. It's affecting all the planets within our solar system. That's where the climate change is coming from.
Right.
A lot of people are starting to think that there's also going to be a new ice age, because after it passes, everything will be cooling down.
Right. Well, I'll tell you another thing that they're really keeping a lid on is all the mass animal deaths. I mean, it's just not being reported.
Yeah. I mean, the elite are going to be sitting down in their nice condominiums, whatever they have, where all this stuff is going to be happening. Other people are thinking, oh, I hope the Earth's crust doesn't hold up as good as they think it will. And that way all these deep underground military bunkers will all be flooded or crushed by all the ground falling down into them. See, the Hopi, they also said in their predictions, after the Third World ended, the Third Hopi World ended, there was massive earthquakes just left and right all over the place. It took a long time for the Earth to settle down. Now we're in the Fourth Hopi World. And all of your listeners can go to YouTube and you look up the Hopi prophecies, one after the other after the other. One of the most recent prophecies is that the oceans will be black. That was in 2010. The BP Horizon oiling rig, which exploded there in the Gulf of Mexico, it actually closed down what normal people call the Gulf Stream, or the thermal Hylene, there's a technical name for it, Hylene system. It's a river of water that goes all the way around the planet, around each continent, and it brings the warm water up towards Iceland and over to Europe. That system is almost shut down. And that's because of all that oil that went in there. Marshall Masters in 2010 was saying, mark my words, the Gulf Stream is going to be closing down. I've been following professors up in Canada, which have been watching the Gulf Stream, and it's causing all kinds of problems around the planet now. You think the weather is weird over the United States now, and that's because the jet stream normally is somehow connected with the Gulf Stream. The jet stream is actually going below the equator and pulling up stuff from below the equator and putting it up over the North American area. So we not only have the Gulf Stream almost shut down. You can go to thelibertyman.com. That's John Moore's website. And he talks about it right there in one document after another after another. The movie a couple of years ago, the Day After Tomorrow, The Day After Tomorrow talks about it, about the Gulf Stream ending.
Yep.
And it goes into all this massive weather systems around the planet. See, Hollywood has been slowly warning humanity with their movies.
And in the Illuminati card game, one of the things that the Illuminati boasts about is that they feel they should tell us in certain little leakage ways, because then they can say, well, we showed you, we told you, and, you know, and they think it's funny.
Interesting, the Illuminati. The Pope, back in the 1180s, he started the Templars and the Hospitallers. Almost no one has ever heard of the Hospitallers. He told them to have this certain 8-pointed cross to be put on their clothes. The 8-pointed star, interesting. One of my friends a couple of years ago had this ancient picture of the Anunnaki on his Facebook page. My wife and I, we had just come back from the island of Malta over the Mediterranean. Her parents came from Malta. I was seeing the Maltese cross over everything. Okay, cool. Here's this ancient wall carving of the Anunnaki that goes back 6,000 years. And this one is a really weird Anunnaki. He doesn't have the huge robes on like almost all the other ancient things show him. Has a nice cross on his chest. There's a chain on his chest, and here's a circle, and inside the circle is an 8-pointed cross. What the heck is this? And it's the only one that ever shows with an Anunnaki having a chain on his chest. So I had to look that up.
Robert, you need to check out this video that I just posted.
Okay.
I will post it in your Facebook message board, and it explains the history of the Illuminati, where it started out as the Knights Templars and so on and so forth. I'm not going to go through it all because we're at the end of the show right now. We've done our 2 hours, and I want to thank you again for coming on and sharing with us. But I will post that into your Facebook page, and I know you're going to be at the Thrive Conference, and I hope you have a safe trip there and everything goes well for you. And I will send you a copy of this recording, and I appreciate you coming out and spending time with us this evening. Oh, I guess I lost him.
No,
okay,
I'm right here. Badbaby, do you hear me?
Yeah, did you get kicked off again?
Yes, I did. Okay, hold on. This ancient 6,000-year-old carving of the Anunnaki shows him with a circle on a chain with an 8-pointed cross. That is the mark of Cain. Where God put this mark on Cain's head and sent him to a different part of the world. Okay? That's also mentioned by Zechariah Sitchin. Okay. The Templars started... You there? Badbaby, you still there?
Oh, yeah, we're here.
Okay. The Templars started the Illuminati, the Rosicrucians, and the Freemasons.
Yeah.
The Hospitallers started the Knights of Malta. Okay? The Anunnaki have a long lifespan. That's why the ancient Bible says Methuselah lived almost 1,000 or more years. Noah lived almost 1,000 years. All the other people in the ancient Bible had long lifespans. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
They were the offspring of the Anunnaki, according to Zechariah Sitchin.
Okay.
The Sumerian kings list before Noah's flood showed people living for thousands of years. After Noah's flood, they lived shorter and shorter lifespans. Okay? So those are the hybrids, and they are in every kingdom around the planet. They are the Enliites, the Enlilites, the Enkeites. Through the Rosicrucians, which actually built the Georgia Guidestones, R.C. Christian, Rosicrucian, Freemasons. Almost all of the early presidents of the United States were Freemasons.
Freemasons has, this is their secret, correct?
That's what I think.
That's what I think.
My personal opinion. The Rosicrucians were created by them along with the Illuminatis. They are ruling the planet.
Yep. And that's what, it's so interesting. I really hate to cut us off right here. We'll just have to have you come back and talk more about this. Because, they're so connected to targeted individuals, the Masons are. And
exactly.
I think it all has to do with eliminating and ruling the planet. But I want to thank you again. I want to thank you again for coming out and sharing with us tonight. We will have you come back and share with us some more. And like I said, you have a safe trip when you go to speak at the conference. And
I'll be there.
In the window, I want to let you know that next week I have a special guest coming on. His name is Bruce Van Netta, and his story is remarkable. He had a near-death experience that is just bone-chilling. He was a mechanic on big trucks, diesel trucks, and he actually had this truck drop down on his body and almost cut him in half. And he had an outer-body experience, and that's all I'm going to tell you. I'm going to let him tell his story, and he is still alive by the miracle of the Lord. And I just can't wait to have him on and share with us everything that happened with this man. I mean, you people are going to be taken back by his story. I hope you call in too, Robert, and listen to what he has to say.
Okay.
All right, well then on that note, I'm going to thank everybody for joining with us. I will send you a copy of this recording, okay, Robert?
Yes, please. I'll post on my Facebook page.
Okay. Thanks again, sweetie.
Okay. Have a nice night, everybody.